James Wiseman's story isn't just another tale of a young basketball prodigy rising to the NBA. It is a journey filled with raw talent, controversy, heartbreak, and redemption. A path that tested his character as much as it tested his athletic ability. Before he was a 7-foot phenomenon selected second overall in the 2020 NBA draft, before the bright lights of Golden State welcomed him as their next great big man, James Wiseman was a kid growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, navigating a world that expected greatness even before he fully understood what greatness meant. His rise to the NBA is a story that remains lesser known, overshadowed by headlines and drama. But today we're diving deep into the untold story that shaped the man he would become. James Wiseman didn't grow up in a basketball factory or a major talent hotbed. He was raised primarily by his mother, Donzeli Artis, in East Nashville. Life wasn't easy. His family faced financial struggles and constant instability. But what James lacked in resources, he made up for in discipline and determination. From a very young age, his mother pushed him to focus on school, spirituality, and self-belief. Even before the world saw him as a basketball prodigy, she saw something special. Whenever the family faced hardship, she would remind James of a simple phrase: "Your talent is your blessing. Don't waste it." Those words stayed with him. Wiseman didn't start off as a dominant 7-footer. In fact, early on, he was just another kid with big dreams. But everything changed around middle school when he underwent an explosive growth spurt that took him from average height to towering over most kids his age. Coaches who had overlooked him suddenly couldn't ignore what they saw. Long arms, huge hands, coordination that usually didn't exist in someone that tall, and a motor that seemed endless. Unlike most big men whose skills were raw and awkward, James was fluid, agile, and surprisingly skilled with the ball. He ran like a guard, jumped like a wing, and finished like a center. It wasn't long before local coaches started calling him the future of Nashville basketball. But talent alone wasn't his advantage. It was work ethic. Wiseman would spend hours in the gym perfecting his hook shot, practicing footwork, and running endurance drills until his legs burned. He studied the greats, Hakeem Olajuwon's footwork, Tim Duncan's fundamentals, and Kevin Garnett's intensity. His teammates remembered him as the kid who stayed after practice long after everyone went home. For James Wiseman, basketball wasn't an escape, it was a purpose. Everything began to take shape when he joined East High School in Memphis and later transferred to Memphis's powerhouse program under coach Penny Hardaway. Hardaway, a former NBA star and Memphis legend, saw something extraordinary in Wiseman. Their relationship began far earlier than most people realize. When James was still a young teen, Hardaway helped train him, pushing him to refine his skills and teaching him the mentality needed to reach the NBA. Penny believed Wiseman could be a #1 pick someday, and Wiseman trusted him like no other coach. This bond would eventually shape both their futures and spark controversy the world couldn't ignore. When Wiseman committed to the University of Memphis to play under Penny Hardaway, fans saw it as a dream pairing. The city embraced him instantly. Memphis basketball hadn't seen hype like this in decades. But only days into his freshman season, everything came crashing down. The NCAA launched an investigation into Penny Hardaway's past involvement with Wiseman. They claimed Hardaway had acted as a booster when he helped Wiseman's family move to Memphis years before he became the Tigers' head coach. The ruling? Wiseman was ineligible to play. The news shocked the sports world. Memphis fans were furious, analysts were confused, and Wiseman was suddenly placed at the center of a national controversy. He had done nothing wrong. He was just a teenager whose family accepted moving assistance from a man who wasn't even a college coach at the time. But the NCAA wanted to make an example, and Wiseman was the one caught in the middle. Instead of standing by quietly, Memphis pushed back. Wiseman and the school filed a lawsuit, allowing him to temporarily continue playing. For a brief moment, it felt like a victory. The crowds roared when he stepped back onto the court. His teammates celebrated him like a hero. But that moment wouldn't last. Wiseman was ultimately suspended, and the NCAA demanded that he pay back the moving expenses, a request many saw as shocking and unfair. On December 19, 2019, after just 3 games, James Wiseman made one of the hardest decisions of his life. He withdrew from Memphis and declared for the NBA draft. His college dream was dead almost as soon as it began. The scandal left him emotionally drained, mentally exhausted, and with far more attention than any teenager deserves. But instead of giving up, Wiseman used the time away to refocus, train harder, and prepare for the biggest stage of his life. The controversy didn't stop NBA teams from believing in his potential. In November 2020, the Golden State Warriors selected James Wiseman with the number 2 overall pick. For Wiseman, it was a fresh start, a chance to prove himself in one of the most respected organizations in basketball. Playing alongside Stephen Curry and Draymond Green offered him an opportunity few young players ever get. The Warriors envisioned him as the center of their future, a dominant force who could usher in a new era for the franchise. His rookie season started with promise. He showed flashes of brilliance, soaring dunks, powerful blocks, and impressive mobility. But trouble returned in the form of injuries. First, a wrist injury sidelined him. Later, a torn meniscus ended his season completely. The next 2 years were filled with more setbacks, rehabs, minutes restrictions, and endless questions from the media. Many fans began to doubt whether Wiseman would ever reach the potential scouts once saw him in. But what they didn't see was the mental strength being built behind the scenes. Wiseman attacked rehab with the same determination he had as a teenager in Nashville. Coaches talked about his dedication, his willingness to be coached, and his desire to prove himself. He wasn't just fighting to return to the court, he was fighting for his reputation, his confidence, and his childhood dream. Today, Wiseman continues training, improving, and proving doubters wrong one day at a time. Analysts still believe he has all-star potential if he stays healthy and continues developing his game. And Wiseman hasn't forgotten where he came from. The struggles, the long nights, the early morning training sessions, the controversies, and the setbacks. All of it shaped him, all of it prepared him, and all of it fuels him every time he touches a basketball. The untold story of James Wiseman isn't defined by what he lost. It's defined by how much he continues to fight for what he can still become. His journey to the NBA is still being written. And sometimes the greatest comebacks come from the stories most people forget or misunderstand. James Wiseman's story is far from over.